Dumba, Jumden, the Java, Dajumba, Yandaba, Zobe, Sanje, Rivada, Jamsu, Demba, Deva, Java, Jeden, Jemba, Jevon, Deve, Galo, Jorva, Lana, Meva, Lada, Menamje, Dumba, Sanje, Jumden, Debe, Java. Shaja doba la janze lo jedo jaso je wo demba jomden de je sheba cha jomba yang da wa zobe sanje rigwa da jamso demba dewa la jeba jeden jemba jebo ndube galo yorwa lana meva Lada menam je domba sanje jomden de pe jawa shaja adoba la chanze lo chudo jazo je ho domba jomden de je shaba ta jomba yanda ba zobe sanje rigba da jabzo demba dewara sheba jikden jemba jebo deve galo jorwa lana meba lada menamje dumba sanje jomden de benjawa jaja toba la jaze la chudo yaso che ho sanje chudan soje chonama la chanchu bado dane jaso che Tagi chushen jebe sonama je dola penje sanje dobara sho sanje chudan soje chonama la Janju bado dane jaso che Tagi chushen jebe sonama je dola penje sanje Dobara sho sanje chudan soje chonama ala chanju pado tane jaso che Tagi chushen jebe sonama je dola penje sanje dobara sho Good morning to everyone who is tuning in today. and also those who will tune in later. I'm having my annual dry cough for some reason. I think almost every year I get this dry cough. It's more, I think, through irritation of the throat. The more I talk, the more I chant, then the cough comes. Maybe it's telling me that I shouldn't talk too much. Anyway, welcome back. So, we have been talking about Bodhicitta, the core ingredient in creating this state called the enlightened state, the mind that is free from all faults and with all the perfected qualities. However, it is not something simple, even though it appears very, what is the word? Tempting, or something that everybody wants to achieve. So the first step from the Mahayana point of view is to develop the mind, this particular mind called the Bodhicitta. As we have discussed before, there are two common methods in developing this particular state of mind. The mind that aspires to achieve enlightenment in order to liberate others. This aspiration is not arisen due to wanting ourselves to be liberated or ourselves to become Buddha. It is purely motivated to benefit other sentient beings, realizing that the only way to benefit others effectively is to achieve enlightenment. And regarding the two methods, so we are discussing the method that has come from Shantideva. For a very long time, this method is not made kind of common or for public. That's how the Lojong came about. Shantideva's method of cultivating bodhicitta combined with this practice of taking and giving, it became a Lojong practice. For a very long time, it was only taught to a certain group of people because it is not something everybody can practice. The reason is that this requires one to really make a drastic shift in our way of thinking, in our normal habit. Our normal way or normal way or normal habit, our habit is to always cherish ourselves and kind of neglect others' welfare. Here, this practice requires want to really switch that, to change that attitude. From the beginningless time until now, we have been so focused on ourselves, cherishing ourselves, giving importance to ourselves alone. Others become secondary. Oneself is the core, the most important thing. As long as my wishes is fulfilled, as long as my welfare is addressed, others can wait. So we have that kind of attitude, and that didn't really lead us to anything positive. So now, if we really want to go far, get far in terms of the journey to Buddhahood, then at the core we have to make that transformation, that switch, that change. Which is not easy. First of all, habits are hard to die. And this habit is not just from this lifetime. We have been habituated in the past countless lives. So this will not be able to eradicate so easily. It is really kind of engraved deep into our mindset. So because of that, all kinds of questions and doubts arises, whether even such thing is possible. Can we really do that? Will we, how to put it? Can someone be able to really sacrifice one's own benefits or one's own welfare for the sake of others? It is something feasible. So Shantideva addresses all this. But before that, I wanted to quote this from Shantideva, which we have gone through before. So once we are able to develop this mindset, the benefits are immense. It says, "Kangshi tewe pongba da tonye mangden tedala, tewa kunji semba da tonye tamje shuje chings." So once we are able to develop that kind of mind, so what does it do is that Kangshi tewe pongba dangs, those who are deprived of happiness, those who are starved of happiness, but they have abundance in terms of suffering and pain. This is actually us and our fellow sentient beings. We are all deprived from the joys and happiness that we seek. But we are very rich when it comes to undesirable experiences, unwanted suffering and pain. Miseries are in abundance. So those who are in such a situation, when one is able to develop or acquire this mindset, what it does is one is able to really satisfy or satiate them with the happiness and joy that they seek. And then one is able to eliminate or dispel their miseries. Even the most advanced medicines cannot do that. Even the best doctors cannot provide that. Only a bodhisattva can do that. Not only it addresses or it dispels the current suffering, but it also helps to dispel the cause of suffering, which is ignorance. Everything is a result. Everything is a result of one's ignorant mind. So once we have that mind, we are able to dispel the main cause of one's suffering. So therefore it says, Tedan kizun kalayu. Where else is there such a merit? Where else is there such a friend? One's friend can do so many things for us. One can help in difficulties or difficult times. When we run into financial problems, our friends may be able to help us. When we need manpower, our friends may be able to provide that. But everything they can do is only for this life. If you beg your friends to please help me to ensure a good rebirth, no friends can do that. So that's why it says, where else is there such a friend? And where else is such a merit? Remember, after this stanza, it says that if somebody helps us in our mundane things, if we ask for help and somebody agrees or give us that help, we feel so grateful to that person. But here, Bodhisattva's help is unsolicited. We never ask for it. And then it's not to one person, to everybody. And also it's not to dispel only one particular condition or problem. It is there to eliminate all forms of pains and suffering. So imagine how meritorious that would be. So there's a reason to develop such a mindset. Once we are able to acquire or develop or cultivate that kind of mindset, then we will be able to kind of automatically amass huge merits. That's why His Holiness always quotes this or says this, that bodhicitta itself is the best purification. Itself can purify so many negativities. Itself can cultivate so much merit. The reason is that when we have that mindset, when we are able to generate that mindset, we are driven by this wish to free sentient beings from their suffering, to achieve enlightenment. And once we have that mind, we really want to obtain enlightenment as quickly as possible, because one cannot bear to see the sufferings of sentient beings. One cannot bear to witness the sentient beings undergoing so much pain and suffering. So one is forced or propelled or driven to achieve enlightenment as quick as possible. For that reason, they will do anything that can expedite their journey to Buddhahood. So the two main things that can expedite one's journey to Buddhahood, or the destination to Buddhahood, is by purifying all the past negativities and also prevent or stop creating new negative karmas. And on the other hand, one needs to cultivate as much merit as possible, so that that force of merit can push oneself forward. So if these are the two things that one requires to bring to Buddhahood, then why not would they do? So they will immediately stop engaging in negativities. Because it's kind of a demerit for bodhisattvas to engage in negative karma. It will delay their journey. So in that sense, there is a reason. It makes sense that bodhicitta can really expedite or can can enable a person to cultivate merits and stop from creating negative karma. So now the question is, how shall we go about? How do we engage in this practice called exchanging oneself with others? So when we say exchanging oneself with others, it is exchanging this attitude, this habit. Until now, we have been cherishing ourselves. And until now, we have been working primarily for our welfare. So now onwards, instead of cherishing ourselves and working for our own selfish benefits, we now shift our focus. Instead of cherishing ourselves, we now cherish others. Instead of so focus or obsess with fulfilling our own goals, we shift our concentration towards helping others to fulfill their goals. So it is not important. It is not easy. It is not easy because we are not used to that. And then all kinds of doubts arises. So that's why Shantideva addresses each and every questions or doubts or arguments. So this, which we have discussed, is like accepting, is like making this sacrifice. Is it really something Buddha taught? So that's why Shantideva quotes from the sutra itself that Buddha talked about this Bodhisattva, Supusha Chandra, in order to benefit others, thousands of other sentient beings, in order to bring them to that kind of level of realization, despite knowing that it will endanger his life, he still proceeded with giving the teachings. So these kind of courageous deeds are not something made up. Buddha himself has encouraged, Buddha himself has described in the sutra. "107. So now the following few stanzas is about the benefit of of working for others. So what are the benefits? Tedar gyuni kom gyurba shengi tunye shi gawe peme soru ngangbadar narme payan jukbar gyururus. Thus, because he loves to pacify the pains of others, he whose mind is attuned in this way would enter even the deepest hell, just as a wild goose plunges into a lotus pool. So this is to show that when one is accustomed in working for others, when one is habituated in benefiting, engaging in actions to benefit others, then it becomes like a second nature, and one will feel joy in doing that. There will be no hesitation. There will be no kind of a feeling of what is the word? Dreadfulness, is it? Because he loves to pacify the pains of others, like the Supusha Chandra, he happily, joyfully did this. He whose mind is attuned in this way would enter even the deepest hell. The way the wild goose, I don't know whether the wild goose plunges into the lotus pool. If we are asked to jump into a pool, we will think twice, especially during winter. But goose or geese or duck, is it? They have no problem, because that's what they do. So likewise, when we engage in more and more of actions of benefiting others, then we started to feel the joy. Even just a tiny thing, I think from our own experience, when we are able to do something selfless deed, something that stem out of compassion for others, it could be as small as just opening a door for a person on a wheelchair, or just giving, I don't know, some food. Once this is done really out of compassion, and there is kind of a sense of satisfaction, this inexplicable kind of joy. I think every one of us have at least experienced once. So imagine if you're able to do more. So this has to be stemmed out of compassion. So when you have other motivations, then we won't be able to experience that joy. But when it's out of pure compassion, then one really feel this sense of joy. So it is really kind of mind, what we call mind over matters. Like a mother, whatever, when the mother looks after a child, a mother would do anything. The mother can stay awake for whole night. When I was growing up, so I grew up in a farm. So life is very tough. People wake up before dawn and back home only after dusk. And then night time, when it is the potato season, because where I grew up, potato is one of the main source of income. It takes a few months to really have a good harvest, and it involves a lot of work. But then that is the main income. So people do it. So what happens is, once the potato is planted, so the way potato is planted is, you put actual potatoes and bury it in a heap of soil. So once you have finished that, you have to guard. Otherwise, wild animals come and dig out. So my family, mostly my mother, we used to have a shed in the farm. So she sleeps there and wakes up every 2 hours, and then we have something to kind of a bell type, but of course is made from those big tins. So you have to pull that to make sound, to drive away wild animals. It could be wild boar, it could be deer, it could be something else. And then you kind of go around and see whether there are any wild animals with a big torchlight. And you hardly get to sleep that well. But over here, like, last night I didn't sleep well, so today I want to rest. They cannot afford that. The next day, back to work. But they don't feel that pain. They're kind of happy. So I kind of diverted a bit. So what I was saying there, likewise, the parents, if one has a difficult child, parents hardly get to sleep during the night time because one needs to attend to the child. But they do it happily. And I don't know, I cannot say in America, in the West it's different. But in Asian culture, I think we see mother as someone who would do anything. Even though it is tough, it is difficult, but somehow they are able to really cope well with it. They don't feel, they find joy. They would do anything. If your child is sick, if one can kind of exchange that, if one can take upon the child's sickness, mother would have no hesitation to do that. And more relatable thing is when one is in the early relationship, when you are in the peak of your romance, the both partners would do anything, isn't it? If your partner asks you to walk 100 miles, you would do that happily. You find joy in that, fulfilling that. So this is all really through this mental development. It one's attitude. Even though it's the same, just to make it, I think it's already clear, but it just came to my mind. So if you are in a relationship, and if that person asks you to walk 100 miles, I don't know whether that's too much. 100. Let's say ask you to walk 5 miles. One would do that. And even when we're finished doing that, one may not even feel. Or let's say if you walk with that person whom you are so much in love with, if you have to walk with that person, you won't feel that journey. Instead, you may feel it ended so quickly. I wish I could walk some more. But if you are to walk that distance with another person, it would be completely a different story, wouldn't it? So this all shows that it's nothing to do with the actual thing. It is all here. So that's why when we are able to, accustomed to that kind of mental attitude, then it becomes an easy thing. So that's what Chandida was trying to say. So there is a benefit. The more you meditate, the more you engage in such deeds, then it becomes easier and easier. And then there will come a time where that when you hear that there's somebody needs help, you kind of come to life. You light up. that you have this opportunity to help others. There are some people like that. They are so happy to help other people. So there's a verse in Chandrakirti's middle way. Chidarchinji chedra thuasamle. So when Bodhisattva, when you receive I think it's the first bhumi, that's when Bodhisattvas have perfected the perfection of generosity. So when you reach that level, so when there's a particular concentration, so when you reach that, so there is immense kind of joy and bliss once you achieve that level of concentration. But it says that for Bodhisattvas, when you compare that bliss arising from achieving that concentration versus the sound of someone asking me, please give me something, it says incomparable. Bodhisattvas find that sound more blissful, 100 times more blissful and joyful than that joy and bliss as a result of one achieving that level of concentration. So imagine that Bodhisattvas, they find joy in just people asking. So that's why they're able to really give everything. So that's really good, isn't it? You are cultivating merit. You are engaging in practices while having that kind of joy. Semjen number 2 na gawe gyazo kanyimba tini kine chominam tabandebe chishik chas. Not only one would happily engage in such deed or such action, in action that involves benefiting others, and also it is ocean of joy. It also becomes a very joyful activity. So here the question is that, argument is that, isn't achieving liberation is more joyful, more worthy than really chasing after benefiting others, chasing after helping others? Why should I waste my effort and time in benefiting others when I can concentrate all that effort and time to achieve liberation, nirvana? So it says that when you compare, will not the ocean of joy that shall exist when all beings are free be sufficient for me? What am I doing wishing for my liberation alone? So, when one strives to achieve enlightenment through this bodhicitta mind, and eventually one is able to really benefit countless sentient beings, liberate countless beings, then they compared that kind of joy with the joy of just achieving liberation from oneself. Is there any comparison? In another commentary, this is illustrated in this way. If you have a boat lying there which is leaky and cannot even bring across even one person, it says, what use is there? So likewise, Rani chikbu tarbani nyingji jenju dundu ngotsawe ne yinbe chirogos. So just focusing, achieving liberation for oneself is kind of an embarrassment in front of those who are driven by compassion to liberate all sentient beings. So that's true, isn't it? So let's say if you in a group of people, and then you are given an option that there's this, let's say, burger or something. So you can give your, let's say, pizza or something. You are given an option that either you can enjoy that burger or pizza, or you can give it to homeless people who are now hungry. And let's say all the other people chose to give away, and you, if you are the only one who chose to eat it, how embarrassing that would be. You feel so awkward and embarrassing or humiliating. So it is, if you put this bodhicitta mind and this self striving to achieve liberation. So if you put the two side by side, the difference is stark. So that's what I was saying. That's what Shantideva was trying to tell us. So basically saying that it is worthwhile to strive to achieve enlightenment in order to benefit sentient beings, other than focusing only for one's own liberation. Because this strife, this effort is concerned with countless people, countless number of sentient beings, whereas one's striving to achieve liberation is only for one person, which is self. Tete shengi tuen shejang lomseng tani ngozar me, chikdu shendun lagawe namin debi rawa me. So another benefit, another quality of developing bodhicitta, this is mainly of helping others with pure motivation, driven by compassion, is that one will never feel this sense of conceit, this arrogance, thinking that, oh, I have helped them, I have benefited this person. In normal, conventional sense, of course, there's a reason and people feel that, oh, I helped you. And some people even boast that I helped you when you are in difficult times. You should feel grateful to me. But when we help others purely out of compassion, then one would never feel that. Therefore, although working for the benefit of others, I should not be. Actually, it's not really I should not be. It's one will not feel. So here, when you say I should not be considered, that means like you shouldn't feel that way. It's not that. That's not the meaning. The translation should be. I hope I'm daring to say that. Is that so one would not feel conceited and feel that I am so great. So as I mentioned before, that when we are really able to, when we were able to provide help out of compassion, we never feel that. And because of the joy there is in solely doing this, I should have no hope for any ripening. So when one does kind deed out of compassion, of course there is no expectation of return. There is no ulterior motive. There is no expectation. Because this is driven by compassion. You see the need. You see, one saw that the person is in pain of suffering or needing help. And out of compassion, one provides that help. So in that sense, one will not feel, or one will not expect. So that's the quality. Tewe chidar chungu na menyen leja ta sungwa deshin shen la sung sem dang nyingji semne tedar chas. Therefore, just as I protect myself from unpleasant things, however small, in the same way I should act towards others with a compassionate and caring mind. So this is all about changing that attitude. We have to make a major shift in our thinking. Until now, we thought that cherishing ourselves is the source of all happiness, but it turned out to be wrong. Past Buddhas, have found that actually cherishing others is the source of all good qualities, or source of all happiness. I think we will come later to this. I always like this stanza. Mangdu she da chi shi ku tuba shengi tunje da chiba rangi tunje ba dini kini chabar dos. This is so clear. He said we don't need to delve into lengthy discussions and explanations about, the which is better, whether the self-cherishing attitude is the source of happiness or whether the other cherishing is source of happiness. It's just that simply you look at Buddhas, look at the past Buddhas, and look at us, labeled as child. I repeat this quite often because Buddhas are one time like us, no different from us. They are also flawed. They can get angry, they can get jealous, they harbor hatred. And then they realize that the way to achieve enlightenment, the way to progress in the path to enlightenment is really cherishing others. And they realize that this self-cherishing has always been the source of suffering has always been the one that destroys our peace of mind, our happiness, our joy. Therefore, Buddhas have strived to really switch that. Instead of cherishing themselves, they started cherishing others. And they started to stress importance on the welfare of others, and kind of downplayed their own importance. And as a result, they are now Buddhas. We are still in samsara. So I thought that this stanza is so powerful. So the main point is that, therefore, just as I protect myself from the slightest, did I read that? Therefore, just as I protect myself from unpleasant things, however small, in the same way I should act towards others with a compassionate and caring mind. So, therefore, just as I protect myself from the slightest unpleasant words, even as slight as what is the other word for that? Anyway, as small as something hurling an insulting word, unpleasant word, as slightest unpleasant words, I will likewise protect all sentient beings from every form of suffering and bring them joy and happiness with a compassionate and caring mind. So now, if that is the case, now the question is it possible to really engage in the practice of exchanging oneself with others? Can we really cherish others instead of ours? Can we really switch that? So the question arises, is it possible to do this, the exchanging oneself with others? Here in the text itself, the commentary itself, it's like this. In order to engage in this practice of exchanging oneself with others, I have to perceive or imagine or think that other's body is mine and mine is other. So I don't know about that. So that's impossible, it says. And also, will I be able to cherish others the way I cherish myself? So Shantideva says that all this is possible. It is matter of acquaintance. It is a matter of what's that called? habituation. If one is accustomed to a particular specific behavior, then that act becomes one's habit. And then there will come a time where you don't even need to put effort. Komba yene shenda kis kuwa taki tikbala ngobo mebra gyurjani tago shene sheba tars. Tishin shenge lulaya taji chi chirmesu taki luni shen tadoang shaba tedar kawames. Although the basis is quite impersonal, through constant familiarity, I have come to regard the drops of sperm and bloods of others as I. So at the moment we have this concept of I and others. So all this, at the beginning, there is no such thing. And what we call, what we label, what we perceive as I and cherish so much is actually something which is not ours, like sperm and blood of our parents. They are not ours, but through familiarity, through grasping, apprehending that this is me, this is I, so we have developed this apprehension, this grasping. And then, we started to cherish this. We started to call it's mine, my hand, my head, my body. The consciousness has come from the past life, but the body itself is somebody else. So it says the drops of sperms and blood of others as I. So this argument is really to the point. So in the same way, why should I be unable to regard the bodies of others as? If I was able to develop this apprehension, this attitude, this concept of I to something which is not mine at all, then it is possible to really even develop this apprehension, this attitude to others' body as one's. Hence, it is not difficult to see that my body is also that of others. So basically the point is all through habituation, through familiarity. So that's why the word gom or meditation means familiarizing. Make ourselves familiar with that. The more we engage in that particular act, the more we become familiar with that thing. So now is the actual practice of exchanging, how to engage in the practice of exchanging oneself with others. So this is the summary. Having seen Tani Gyönje Shenlan Yunden Gyazuru Shechene, Danzin Yonsu Torwadan, Shenlan Wani Kombar Chaz. Having seen the mistakes in cherishing myself and the ocean of good in cherishing others, I shall completely reject all selfishness and accustom myself to accepting others. So this is after realizing after upon contemplating on the faults of self-cherishing, then one gain this insight or the realization that self-cherishing is the source of all problems, whereas cherishing others is source of all goodness or the happiness and joy. So upon gaining that insight, so one starts to switch. One starts to change our attitude. In the past, we only see others' faults, even though the other person has only single flaws. Let's say, if you see 10 qualities and one fault, what would we do? Our tendency is just focus on that flaw, that fault, rather than focusing on the other many qualities, good qualities. So from now on, instead of focusing on others' fault, try to see your own faults. Of course, in the West, it's quite tricky. But when we say, see your fault, it doesn't mean that, one is demeaning oneself, but basically is accepting the reality. Because one is able to accept one's downsides or one's flaws, then there is a chance that one will improve, one will address that flaw. And that's how one can improve. If one is oblivious to one's own faults and downsides, then one will never improve. And on the other hand, if one is able to focus on the good qualities of others, if one is able to prioritize others' good qualities over their faults, then one will have a better relationship. One will be able to develop friendship and lasting relationship. And if one is to really research into all the failure of relationship failures, I am quite certain that one major portion or the point would be the criticism, always finding faults in the other partner, in each other. And when you find faults and criticize that, of course, argument and quarrel will ensue, and that will stain the relationship. And then it will come or reach a point where one can no longer tolerate or stand. And that's how the relations get strained. So if we are able to do the opposite, then that's the first step. But of course, here is not just simply trying to look for qualities and undermining or minimizing the faults. But here is realizing that self-cherishing is the source of all misery. and cherishing others is the source of all good things. So having that as a foundation, and then when we start to shift our focus, one will be able to experience a real change, a positive change in one's life, whether it be in terms of relationships, friendships, or whatever. I think we stop here for today. Thank you very much. Let's say the dedication prayers. Dagi jenye zawe gyawa de tendan dowa kunla kangpen dan gyawara chizun losan tagwa yi tenbe nyingbu ringdu seje sho jambe bawe chedara kemba Gundo zangbo deyan deshin do deda kungi jesu talob je gyawa deda tamje rabdo ngo duzun shekwe gyawa tamje je ngowa kanla shodo ngabad Dagi gewe zawan degun jan zangbo juji rabdo ngo wara jes. Thank you.